So super excited to be here with a good friend and a buddy who his brother is one of my best friends. I was in his wedding. It's crazy how God's timing works, but Sterling reached out to Zach and was like, hey, my brother's in town. Maybe y'all can meet up. And I was like, well, I'm in town too. What about me?
Oh, yeah.
And so it was just perfect timing. I mean, you have an amazing story full of all kinds of turns and ups and downs and all kinds of stuff. So I thought it'd be super awesome to get kind of your story and where you are and catch up. I love doing this with people where I'm like, I'm hearing it firsthand like a lot of people. So why don't we just kind of start with your back, where you're from, how you were brought up, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's a cool part. I mean, obviously you have a ministry, brothers by choice for a reason.
Mhm.
So I'd love to hear just kind of how your childhood started.
Well, let's just say I'm from Dallas, Texas, but I'll start from the beginning. So first of all, my name is Devonric Johnson. Most of my friends call me DeeDee. You know that. Some people call me D. So if they haven't got the DeeDee yet, you're working towards it. But I'm making sure the relationship is there.
Yeah.
But let's see. Starting, I can tell you from the beginning. Like, I don't think most people know this, but I was born in prison. Uh,
Dang.
yeah, I never knew my biological parents growing up. My mom was a drug addict. My dad was a pimp, and she was one of his girls, and she got on drugs. He put her on drugs, and I was brought into the world. And from there, one of my friends of the family, I used to think was part of my family. I thought it was, oh, this is my aunt.
Yeah.
But later on, I found out it was like a friend of the family, took me in and took me out of Dallas and took me out to a place called Terrell, which is like 30 minutes outside of Dallas. And that's where I started initially growing up. We lived out in the country. We had a nice home, a nice car. My uncle and my, like I said, it was a friend. I called my uncle. My aunt took very well care of me and my biological brother. And then my uncle died of a tragic heart attack when I was 5 years old. I don't really remember his age. So from there, my world kind of turned upside down. He was the breadwinner of our family. My aunt didn't work. So we lost all of our income and we became very poor. We lived in a nice home and the home got repossessed and we had to move into a 15 by 15 storage shed, in which I call a shack. It was dilapidated, had no running water, had no gas, no electricity, no toilet or sink. If we wanted electricity, we'd have to siphon it from a pole next to our property. If we wanted heat or gas, we use heat. We use like a small heater, space heater. In order to use the bathroom, we use a 5-gallon bucket in which I would have to take out back about 100 yards. So in the summertime, in Texas, if you've been to Texas, it can be very hot and muggy. So just imagine that stench, blow in. It was just, if you can really imagine that smell, it was horrible. If we wanted to take a bath, we used the old like aluminum tub that you've seen in the westerns, right? And we'd use water from a water hose to fill it up. We'd, wash clothes in this, take a bath, wash any type of dishes we had. Another aunt came from Dallas to try to help us out. It wasn't enough. We were just in a situation where my aunts didn't know what to do. And I lived like this from the age of 5 until the age of 8, where we got an old used trailer home given to us by the church. and which was most definitely an upgrade from where we lived in the shed, but it was still dilapidated. We didn't have running water. We still didn't have a bathroom. We did have electricity though. But my aunt was in such a disarray in her life from my uncle dying that she became severely depressed. She got overwhelmed with the bills and griefs, and she became a hoarder, a severe hoarder, and she also became physically and verbally abusive. I mean, she would call me all types of names and, you know, hit me with all types of things. And I was just a tough kid. I would just take it, But at the age of 10, one day she tried to hit me and I wouldn't let her hit me. And I left the house and never came back. I was homeless and on the streets at the age of 10. And somehow, some way, I still went to school. We lived out in this place called Tanganyika Village. And so we lived 15 minutes outside of Terrell in the country. And we lived down the dirt road. You'd go about 3 miles down this dirt road, and then you would go about another mile, maybe 8.8 of a mile to this place called Tanganyika Village. And that's where we lived. I think it was an old Indian kind of reservation or something like that. So during this time, like school was my only place that I had like my sanctuary, and I was a very, very good student. I never made a B, and I actually scored the highest score on our Texas assessment test when I was in the 5th grade. So the Governor Ann Richards came down and gave me a blue ribbon, and I had the newspaper article and clipping of everything. So school was my sanctuary. It was a way for me to go and get help. It was clean. I got praise from the teachers. I also felt really good about myself because I was smarter than everybody else. It was the only thing I felt good. And so just to tell you, just in order for me to get to school, I would have to like walk down this dirt road about 3 miles just to get to the bus stop. And I did that by myself without any parental supervision and guidance and all that stuff, and rode the bus to school and was there every day. Now, in the 5th grade, about this time, after I got the blue ribbon and all that stuff, I started playing basketball. It was sanctioned by the school. So it was the first time I played like, organized sports. And I found out I was a good athlete. I didn't know, I never was in any organized sports. So I played basketball. And on my basketball team was one of my teammates. And he lived in town. He lived, not too far away from our intermediate school. So sometimes I would just stay at his house, right? Or because the like basketball practice was obviously after school. So it being after school, if I missed the bus to go home, I wouldn't have a ride home. So guess what? I walked and ran home. And that's how I became a good runner. And I still run till today. Like, running 10 miles, I did it at a young age. So running is like, something easy for me. But sometimes I was tired from basketball. I don't know if you played any sports. After school, you're tired, you just want to get something to eat, you don't want to do some more exercise. So I would just, my friend Jimmy was like, man, just come over to my house. It's like, okay. So I did. And it was great. However, the only thing about Jimmy was he didn't have his mom worked at night. She was a great mom. She was nice. She was, attentive on what he was doing in school and make sure he had a nice home and clothes, but she worked at night. And so he ran the streets and I ran the streets with him. Jimmy was from a place called Seagoville. He wasn't from Terrell. He had moved to Seagoville. He had moved to Terrell from Seagoville. And and he still had friends in Seagoville, or older people he knew that would come to Terrell, pick him up and take him out to Seagoville. Things like cousins and stuff like that. So I went with them. And when we got to Seagoville, we ran the streets in Seagoville and Pleasant Grove, and we did all types of stuff. And I got involved with this gang. We got involved with this gang, and we started doing, if you think about anything gangsters did or done, I've done it all. I can literally say I've done all besides kill somebody. I have not done that. Thank God for that.
Amen.
And, you know, I would tell you details, but my father always said, you don't need to tell details. You just need to tell the story. And that's part of the story because, you know, details can, you know, make or break how someone looks at you. But I can tell you I did it all. And some way, somehow, I still never missed school. Not one day, and I was never late. I don't know how I did it. You know, so in the 7th grade is when I met Sterling. Now, Sterling, obviously, I don't know if Sterling is my adopted brother, and he's one of the greatest men that I know. I met him when I was in the 7th grade, and he was on my football team. Now, this is the first time I played football. Now, I played basketball those 2 years before, organized. Now I'm starting to play football. And the first time I hit somebody, I had a epiphany. Oh. Yeah, it was like an awakening moment. I could hit somebody and get all this anger out without getting in trouble. It was much different than basketball. You know, football, that first time we did the Oklahoma drill, I had no idea. And I just, wow. And it's like, oh, I found God. God is speaking to me right now. And so at this time, I didn't know, our team was huge. We had like 100 kids or something like that. I didn't know Sterling personally. I just knew that he was really good on the offense, and I was running back, so I knew he was one of the linemen. And I also played like defensive end at the time. And so we didn't become friends until later. So I'm just telling you that I knew of him, but we weren't friends. How we became friends is a very funny story, and he tells it such different than my perspective. But I was known as the guy that would beat up the bullies. All you had to do is give me $5, and I'd go beat the bully up. So you know, I made some money in middle school and in high school by beating up bullies. So these kids come to me, and they're like, "This guy's picking on us, and we don't know what to do. We need some help." I was like, "Okay, you know what? Give me $5. I'll go take care of it." And I was like, "Okay, tell this bully next time you see him that you got a guy that's gonna like come meet him at the playground or the basketball court to squash all this BS." And they told him, and they told Sterling that, and Sterling like, "All right, I'll come meet this your friend who thinks he's bad or whatever." So at the time, I was like, you know, I was a cool kid or whatever. I consider myself cool. I was wearing like cross colors. I had like this forest green pants on, and like the hoodie with the stripes and all that stuff. And like Sterling always says I look like the fakest gangster coming up to him. But you know, that was everybody like, "Oh, D, man, they love the way I dress." So I come walking up to Sterling, and I'm like, "Sterling? Hold on, don't you play on my football team, man?" He's like, "Yeah, I think aren't we on the same? I think we're on the same football team." I was like, why are you picking on these kids, man?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "These kids have told me you were picking on them. That is why I'm here." And he was like, "You're the guy that they said is gonna beat me up?" I was like, "Man, don't worry about that." And then Sterling's like, "Dude, these kids have been ganging up on me." And I'm like, "What do you mean they've been ganging up on you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, they call me all types of names. They make fun of me because, you know, I'm a little clumsy." And I turn to these kids and I'm like, "Is this true?" "Well, yeah, but he's so big, so we didn't know what to do." I was like, "You know what? You know, Sterling, if we ever want to really fight, we can fight on the football field and not get in trouble." And we became friends after that. And so me and Sterling started hanging out. I would go over to his house. And Charlie and Jamie, his parents, were very strict. They were very involved in his life, and they wanted to know every single person that came to hang out with Sterling. And so, and at this time, I was still living on the streets. I was a master manipulator. And there were several times that Charlie and Jamie tried to take me back home, and I always came up with some type of story on how, you know, why I couldn't do it. Yeah. You know, I would be staying at different people's houses. I became a master at like sleeping at abandoned buildings and then getting up and going to school and taking a shower in the gymnasium, or in our athletic facility. I was really good at that. And I was also really good at stealing. Like my entire wardrobe was from stealing at department stores. So everybody thought I had this nice home life, But so Sterling, the reason I said that, Sterling's like, okay, we're gonna take you home. Charles like, you don't have a choice. We're taking you home today. So Sterling's, before we're going out there, he says, I always thought you lived in a nice picket home with a nice family because you always were cleanly dressed, even though it was looking like a fake gangster. We always had nice clothes and nice shoes. You always were clean, and you were always astute at school. And when they came and saw the way my aunt was living, the way we were living, he was in total shock, And I'm like, this is where I live, but I don't currently live here. That was the first time I seen her in probably a year. She didn't know where I was. Right. And so Charlie and Jamie, they decided that they were going to help me out, and Sterling asked me to come live with them, and then that's how I got adopted when I was 13.
Wow.
And so, if it wasn't for Sterling, I don't know where I would be. I had other things pending that could have put me in a place until I was 18. And I was, by the grace of God, that I'm still here, and I've done so many things. I went on to be academic All-American. I was a football All-American. I got multiple scholarship offers. I was National Honor Society, Who's Who, took college courses in high school, had different internships because, so, me and Sterling ended up signing. He was also a football All-American, and we both ended up getting a scholarship and went to SMU.
So real fast before you keep going, different perspective is, I've heard Sterling's perspective, and I know you have too. And he went home and told his parents that he wanted you to move in with them. And they basically told him, well, we can't afford to have him live with us, but if he gets to stay in your room and you have to share your clothes with him and the resources we give you. And so, Sterling believed in you and loved you enough to sacrifice that, right? And I'll also tell you, this is a good time to tell you that Sterling would never say you're his adopted brother. He'd say you're his brother. Right? Yeah. He's never doubted that. Yeah. And there is no preface of the adoption side. Yeah. And so I know how much he loves and cares about you, and he literally glows when he talks about you. And I think part of it is what you're about to get into is, right, that second part of y'all's chapter together in your life, knocking heads at SMU. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So we both were football All-Americans. And so we had multiple scholarship offers from different schools. And the reason why we chose to go to SMU because it was legacy. Like Charlie, my dad, went to SMU. Grandma went to SMU. So we were like, okay, you know what? We're going to go to SMU and keep a legacy. And we did. So, and this is where the story kind of makes a different pivot now. During that time at SMU, we both played. We were both all conference and all that, preseason All-American. I got hurt my junior year. 2 games into the season, I suffered post-concussion syndrome. And post-concussion syndrome is when you get multiple concussions to the point where your body breaks down and you are susceptible to getting Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, CTE, all that good stuff. I lost my photographic memory, which was what was my superpower while I was smart. I didn't know I had that until it was gone. I developed severe migraine headaches where I would projectile vomit and my entire day would be ruined in a dark room. And then I developed like severe short-term memory loss. And so from there, Sterling went on to play in the NFL. And we were both going. We were good athletes. That was our thing that we decided when we were 13 that we were going to go to the NFL. So we did everything we could to be better football players, sports, academics. And Sterling went on and achieved that and played for the Cleveland Browns. I unfortunately did not. And so there was a period of time where I was mad at God. Like, God, why did you take my superpowers away, my intelligence, and also my way to not be in a situation the way I grew up as a kid. So I got into like partying and drinking and promoting nightclubs, and I was going down that path until I got scouted to model, and modeling changed my life. Okay, so now imagine before I got hurt, I was 228 pounds, 6'1", 228 pound linebacker safety, meathead. So when I got hurt, I lost 30 pounds because I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks. Gone. All that hard work, those years, gone. 30 pounds gone. So I'm like at 190. And I get scouted, and my agent was like, if you lose some more weight, you'll be able to potentially go to New York and walk runway. So I had a mission, you know. I didn't have a mission before. I didn't have anything because I was lost. Yeah. But I had a singular mission to be able to go to New York. So I dropped down to 160 pounds. I got to 160, and I made it, and I was signed with Wilhelmina and moved to New York, and I walked runways in New York and in Paris and London, and I've been to South Africa, I've been to Shanghai, I've been to Amsterdam, all from modeling. And so during my modeling time, my mom has been divorced and remarried at this time to Peter. Peter, my dad, he was a superintendent of schools for 30 years. And the first time he had met me and Sterling, he said, one day you guys are going to tell your story about Sterling like accepting, splitting everything for you at the age of 13, and you living with Sterling, and how you guys came together, and it's going to be brothers by choice. And we're like, yeah, whatever, man. So lo and behold, he's like, oh, hey guys, remember that story I told you? Well, you're going to be our guest speakers for our teacher in service this year. And we're like, what? Are you serious? And so we had to formulate a speech about what we went through as children, how I got here, how I got to being adopted, and how Sterling, what he did to before he knew me, so that we met and then we became in sync and went to SMU. And so we did. We had our first speech at Peter's Teachers in Service, which was about 200 teachers. And that was the first time I had told my story to anybody. You know how I'm kind of rattling off right now? I could not do that before. The first time I told my story, 3 days after that, I was bedridden because it was so emotional. I was so upset about going back in the past, talking about it, that I didn't know what to do with myself. But it was very, very, very therapeutic. And from that point on, we decided that we were going to turn Brothers by Choice into a motivational nonprofit company. And that's what we did. So we've spoken to at least 100,000 people, community organizations, schools, businesses, churches. We've mentored dozens and dozens of kids about being at risk. Yep. And that's our charge, to always live Brothers by Choice. And it's, our flagship speech is called HERO, which stands for Heart, Empowerment, Respect, and Opportunity. And Sterling was my hero at 13, and I was his hero at 13, because he had no idea the way I was living and still presented myself. And he gave up half of whatever he had to bring me into his family. So our main goal and our main point to all children, or kids who are going through any type of situation that people don't know about, talk to somebody. There's somebody out there that can
Yeah.
help them, even if they're your peer, right? Find a positive influence in your life, like I did, because before Jimmy, I loved Jimmy, best friend, but he was negative influence,
Yep.
and Sterling was the total opposite, and that saved my life. So it doesn't matter where you come from, and at risk doesn't mean living on the streets or being in poverty like me. At risk can mean like you have the greatest home, but your parents are not there because they're working all the time, and you're having to raise yourself, or you have a fractured relationship with one of your parents, or you've gone through some type of trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse. The list can go on. There's many things out there that categorize you as at risk. So, but at the end of the day, find a positive influence, and most of all, try to get yourself right with God. Because without God, I would not be here, brother. I mean, there's no way like the divine intervention with all the things that I'm not telling you, like the details, but I could have been gone.
Yeah.
Not on this earth, or in prison, or having a child out of wedlock. I mean, there's God. So it's part of our story. It's part of our mission to always include God. And I know it's not, and sometimes it's not a political thing to say, but this is what we believe, and this is what I believe wholeheartedly. And so I thank you, Giovanni. And I didn't know if you knew all that.
I didn't know all of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, a great point you made, and I tell people all the time, is the best way to start healing is to start telling your story.
Yeah.
And the more you tell it, the more peace you find, the more comfort you find. And I mean, how you want to talk about that, about, obviously from that first time you told the story to now.
Yeah.
I mean, how has that helped you heal through your process?
I'll tell you something, man. I'm an actor, so if you don't know that, I went from modeling to acting, and I'll tell you, we're gonna go off a little tangent real quick, but I'll bring it back to the point. When I was in college and I got hurt, and the first time I went back to school, now mind you, I never made a B. Okay, I have photographic memory. I came back to school, it was like I was reading Russian. I did not know what was wrong with me. So I called my mom. I'm like, something's wrong. And so at the time, I wasn't diagnosed with like severe short-term memory loss and photographic memory. The diagnosis wasn't there yet. So we went back and saw a neurologist, and he tells me these things. I mean, he did tell me I couldn't play football, so that was looming. I don't know if I said that, my career was over. Okay, and so he says, the neurologist says, in order to help your cognitive thinking, here's a couple things that I suggest you do. And one of them was take acting classes. I'm like, acting classes, man? What? I'm an athlete. I can't be with these nerds, man. I did drama in high school. That was all the nerds, man. What are you talking about? Well, I got 2 more years at SMU because of my injury. So I had electives to take. And a couple of my electives were acting classes, right? So I was like, you know what? It's free. Why not? So I started taking some acting classes. I did some school drama plays, right? And after I got out of SMU, I continued taking acting classes because I felt like it was helping my cognitive thinking. And one day my acting coach pulls me inside and she's like, I just don't believe you. And I'm like, what you mean? She's like, when you act, I feel like you're holding back. So I want you to stay after with me, and let's go over we're going to do a little exercise. So she's like, I want you to tell me about your story. So, and this is before my speech, right? Tell me about your story. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, tell me about your childhood, where you come from. And so I was like, well, I started telling her about my story. And I was in the middle of talking about my story, and then she's like, "Okay, I want you to stop. Now I want you to read these lines to me." I was like, "Huh?" So I started reading these lines, and I just broke down crying. I couldn't even see what was on the paper, man. And she looks at me, she's like, "There it is. I believe it. That's beautiful. You have a superpower. Your story is your superpower. So you need to use it. You need to cultivate it. You need to figure out how to like use it to your advantage." And so she helped me through acting talk about my story. It was, and I used it from different tidbits. It's called like method acting or whatever, if you don't know what that is. And that's how I got into acting, because my acting coach wanted me to talk about my story, and I saw the way that it affected me. Because I was, strong, hard guy, never wanted to talk about anything bad. I'm good, football player, and I just broke down crying. And from then on, my story has been very therapeutic. So every time I get to tell it or I use it in acting, it's cathartic. So I'm healing myself every single time. It's crazy. I never in a million years would thought I would have done some of the things I've done. I've been in TV shows, I've been in movies, I've obviously traveled with modeling, and I'm currently on this tour, theatrical tour that's called the Thorn. It's about Jesus. It's like a mix between the Passion of Christ and Cirque du Soleil. And I get to have a cathartic moment every single time I'm on stage. And it's all because of telling my story and letting other people hear the things that I've been through. The first time I talked about it, I was ashamed. I didn't think, it's embarrassing. Who wants to tell somebody that you were born in prison, or that you never had your parents, or this, and this, and the list can go on. Mm. Who wants to tell that stuff? But to anyone listening, if you have a story, there's somebody out there that they will hear it and you will help them out, and you won't even know it. I've had so many adults and kids just send me messages and tell me about how my story has impacted them more than I could tell you. Like I am in astonishment that this many people, like, it's helping. It has helped. So anytime I get to tell it, it's part of who I am. It's part of what I do. And I just, I can nonchalantly tell it now and not getting too emotional. I'm always going to be emotional about it, but it doesn't stop me from speaking and just like breaking down. I can tell it. I can look at you and say, "Hey, this is what I've been through. What's your story?" If it breaks the ice, if it helps you get out of your shell, that's my charge. And like I said, as an actor, I get to use it all the time. It's beautiful, man. So I don't know what would happen if that acting coach, or maybe the neurologist, I said, take these acting classes. I don't think I would have been able to do this. I've been able to talk about my story and then be able to use it in my field of work.
When did you get to know God? Did you always know him, or was there like one point?
I got baptized when I was young, when I was a kid.
So he was pretty much always in your life.
God has always been in my life,
even when you were homeless on the streets.
God has always been there, and just like your brother, sister, or maybe your mom and dad, you get mad at them about something. Yeah. I was mad at God for some reason, but then I'm like, "Okay, God, I'm sorry. I know you're still here." And so he's always been with me. I've always had a relationship with him. Sometimes better, and at times, sometimes not. But I always knew God is like my best friend, my father, all the things. Whenever I really needed something, God, please help me. There was always something, always.
Well, let's talk about, I think with all of our lives, there's times when we run from God, right? Or we turn our backs on him. Yep. And you shared your struggles through losing your athletic career, right? Mm-hmm. But even the modeling world, the acting world, it's a dark place, right? And I think we're hearing more and more about what really goes on those runways, with the amount of sexual immorality, Hollywood. We hear stories. People are finally getting indicted for things. What was your experience through that, and how did you avoid those seasons and get through them as you experienced some of that darkness?
Oh man, that's a great question, brother. I mean, obviously, I the elephant in the room is God. However, I mean, it's the stories I could tell you about some of the situations I've been in with modeling and acting would blow your mind. You wouldn't even believe it. You'd be like, "Oh, this has to be fiction." And anytime I was presented with some opportunity to enhance my career or push my career forward in a not becoming demonic way, I always prayed and even fasted just so I could get, because fasting means you're giving up and you're trying to get the anointing of the Holy Spirit so that you can fight these battles, because it's the Satan's greatest weapon to use is uh, uh, Hollywood and modeling, because it's a gateway for
Yeah.
him to like, ooh, people want to be like this. They you idols, like pagans. We idol these celebrities and we idol these models and we idol this. So it's like the gateway for anyone who's not uh, strong in Christ to be manipulated and pulled in and all that type of stuff, man. And it's
Yo, what kind of things have you seen?
man, it's just I've seen people just men and women just give up their bodies to push their career,
Hmm.
and also homosexuality to push their career, even if they're not homosexual. I've seen relationships, fractured and thrown to the side to push your career.
Yeah.
I've seen people physically do things to themselves to push their career. It's not good, man. Not good. And it's living in LA or living in Hollywood was it's very a challenging place, man. There's so much like negative, dark energy there every single day.
Mhm.
And there were times where I'm like, man, have I chosen the right career? Is this it's too negative for me. I don't think I can handle. And so I would sometimes be depressed. I would sometimes be antisocial because I would get invited to these events because I'm doing all these things and being around these people. I have like really nothing in common with them to talk about. Nobody's talking about Christ.
Hmm.
Everybody's talking about what they're doing, this and this, and I'm like, man, that's I want to be around that type of energy. So yeah, man, there's a lot of things going
Well, it
on.
seemed like you kind of got out of that atmosphere, and now you're literally like in a Jesus
Mhm.
theater thing now.
Mhm.
So how did that happen? What was that process like?
Oh man, to be honest with you, I don't even know. I
God.
yeah, I decided like, you know what, I have to take a break from LA. So
Yeah.
I went to South Africa in at the beginning of 2024, and I was there for a year.
Mhm.
And then I came back because my father had some heart complications, and so I came back to the house to kind of help out. And then some way, somehow, I got a call from the Thorn
Mm.
about coming on tour with them, and I didn't even know it existed.
Mm.
So it was definitely godsend. It wasn't something that I went out and sought. At the time when I left LA, I was like, yeah, maybe this is the end. But I did go out to South Africa and I did work and I did some projects out there. But I was like, maybe this is the curtain call. When I come back, I'm going to start doing something else.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, here I am.
Now, when you were in LA, did you struggle with like staying away from like those like sins because they're so normalized out there?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, especially if you're trying to, you don't want to be as much of a lone wolf I am. I
Yeah.
still like community,
Yeah.
and these events you try to socialize and like, okay, at least there has to be at least one good person here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like I probably went to at least 100 events, and if I've met one good person out of that 100 events, it was
Yeah.
good. But yeah, it was very, very, very difficult to stay away from the things where, like I said, I became antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
I were depressed a lot. And one way that I fought that depression was becoming very uh, in tune with gym. I became a gym rat. I live at the gym. Like, at least I can do something positive. And even when I would go to like different churches, I wouldn't feel it. I wouldn't feel, like this is the right place for me. So I just became, I just started doing church by myself.
Oh wow.
You know.
Now you've got we've talked about Sterling, but you've got another brother, right?
Yeah.
That's part of that family.
Mhm.
Both your brothers are married now with multiple children, and you're kind of the outcast from
Yeah.
that standpoint. You're the fun uncle that shows up, the funkle.
The funkle, man.
And as someone that's in the same stage as you, right? I've sacrificed a lot of that personal side of my life in order to chase hearts all over the place and for
Mhm.
work. Where are you with that, with pursuing a relationship and having a family and all those things? Because I know at the core, your heart wants that.
Mhm.
Yet there's a side that's running from it.
Mhm.
And again, I'm telling you this from my own experience.
Mhm.
So what is that like? I mean, where are you with that struggle?
Oh man, it's funny thing is like me and the lady I was dating, we just broke up what 2 days ago.
Shoot.
Yeah, man, it's I I can tell you that I definitely want a family and would love to be settled down, but at the same time, it would take a special person to meet me where I'm at in my career, because I am career driven, and whoever I'm dating, I tell that in the beginning. I'm like, I travel, I love, I like I said, I get to be very very cathartic and therapeutic with my own introspective work when I act. So this is something I will continue to do. I just have to find the right medium. And so right now I'm doing theater, but there's probably some more TV, film projects out there for me that I could do to where I can maybe, hopefully, one day find the right woman that is like right there with me and understands that this lifestyle is not easy.
What's your answer to that question?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same thing as Lord, use me, right? Send
Mhm.
me, right? Just like Isaiah talks about. And it's hard, right? It's hard to date someone when you're away. You're like, I'll be
Mhm.
back in 2 weeks. Or,
Mhm.
I get home and I'm like, well, I really don't want to hang out with anyone. I want to go sit in a deer blind, or I just
Yeah.
want to sit in a room by myself. And part of it is the fear of getting hurt, right?
No.
And the fear of hurting somebody else. And I mean, for me, I come from nothing. You don't really know my whole story, D, but I come from nothing. My parents sacrificed everything to give me what I have. And, I made myself the retirement. And so the idea of having to provide for my parents and provide for another family has always been a big weight for me. The crazy part about it is the numbers have grown of what I make, kind of the same way as you in your career.
Mhm.
And it just, when you grow up with a scarcity mentality, you always have a scarcity mentality, right?
Yeah,
And
man.
no matter how much I pray and hand it over to him, there's still this fear that's there, and this idea of, can I provide for a family? Can I provide for because when it's just you, you're like, if I have to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I'll eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Um, but when then there's a family now, right? And then the fear of being enough, right? I think that's a fear as men that we all go through, is, are we enough, right? And I think that's a big part of my struggle, right? And and the idea is that God tells us we're enough, right? We're his son or his daughter. And I mean, that's the powerful part about it. And it's just being able to hear other people's stories, right? Because, from a distance, I've always looked up at you. You're all over the place, and you've had an amazing story, and it's easy for people to be like, oh my gosh, but he's doing all these great things. And the way I explain it to people is, you know what, at the end of the day, I may be chasing souls and helping people, but at the end of the day, I still go to bed by myself.
Yep.
And it is a lonely place to then wake up the next day. And then have to put that mask back on, right? And that master manipulator that you mentioned earlier. And the hard part about it is, I tell people, master manipulators, we can either encourage or inspire people, or we can control and manipulate them, right? And you have to make that choice every day, and sometimes throughout the day, of how you use those things. But part of that is we get really good at manipulating ourselves, right? And telling ourselves certain stories. And so, I'll go anywhere God sends me, but then the question is that an excuse to not have to put myself in situations that I could get hurt? Right. And it's hard. So you've mentioned your biological brother. Where is he today?
But his name is Vontae, and Vontae, he had a little rougher than I did. Yeah, after I left, he went on to live with another aunt, because the aunt that had raised us, she passed away. Funny story, or funny is not the word, but crazy story. The day that she was going to sign my adoption papers, she died in a car wreck, on the way to sign my adoption papers. So I never got officially adopted by the state.
Which means nothing.
So he went to live with another aunt, and when he graduated high school, he went on to serve in the military. So he's a vet. He served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What branch?
Army. He's a tank driver. And unbeknownst to me, he has severe PTSD. And so he's on medication. So his PTSD is not only from serving, but also our childhood. And unfortunately, it has put a fracture in between our relationship. And so, me and him have not spoken in a while, because he's in such a dark place with the PTSD that, it is taking his mind to a different place. And that's very sad, of how me and my brother are not even in speaking terms.
Well, we'll talk. So I just got done with a program that I was the first civilian class to go through. And the way it started was a sergeant major in Marine started going through Discovery. And funny enough, I showed up on a Saturday, and I was standing in front of him, and I contracted him, not knowing who he was. And to this day, we become good friends. But I'm like, I tell people, if I known who he was, I would have treated him the same way. But you and I both know I probably wouldn't have. And so he sent a bunch of people through Discovery.
Oh, wow.
And then eventually realized that warriors, like military and first responders, need a different format. Right. And so I've been involved with them for 8 years, and they basically went and found an organization called, or a program called Warrior Path. And instead of using PTSD, they say it's PTSG, post-traumatic growth.
Oh, man.
And it's super powerful. Like I said, I was one of the first civilian classes, or it was a hybrid class. This was 2 weeks ago. So 11 of us went through, and we had everything from a 27-year-old who had just finished his 4-year tour as a Marine and starts Border Patrol Academy in January. His dad, he comes from a long line of Marines, to a 72-year-old who was he's an Irish Vietnam vet who literally walks in every room ready for a fight. And it was so interesting to experience that. And so I would love to talk more about that and figure out how we could get in contact with your brother and potentially help him through that.
That'd be great, man.
Because
He
part of
definitely
it,
needs it.
yeah, and part of it was the difference is it gives people tools,
Mhm.
right? How do you create daily practices to get through your day and be able
Mhm.
to deal with things differently? And it's been really cool to be a part of that hybrid class where half of us are civilians, the other half are some type of military or first responder, um, and to really understand what the overlap is, where there's differences, but where the similarities are. Right, we're all
Mhm.
warriors that have had to survive something in life, right?
Yeah.
And our way of overcoming tragedies are completely different. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so interesting how two people come from the same family, but they handle things so
Yeah.
differently.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, I think that's been an incredible part about hearing your story and knowing that you had a brother out there, and then even your two brothers that have taken you on and how different they are,
Yeah.
right? And the similarities even that are there to a certain extent. But um, I love hearing your story, man. And it's just so empowering and encouraging and inspiring to see that there's someone out there just living life the way you're living it and have overcome the things that you have.
Well, I always say that I'm not special. And a lot of people are like, oh man, how'd you do it? You're so special. I'm like, no, I wasn't special. I'm not special. I read this book when I was in the 5th grade called A Wrinkle in Time, and that it made me dream. And then the second book I read was The Alchemist. So I read A Wrinkle in Time and The Alchemist. I probably read those books at least 10 times a piece. But both of those books were something I read when I was a very young age. Like, it's a different place out there, but you got to go and seek it. So wherever you're at, if you want something different, you got to go seek it. It's not going to just come to you. You have to work for it. And the other part of that is, you whatever your talent is, my talent was my photographic memory and my athleticism. Some people can sing, some people can dance, some people can lead people, some people can teach people. Everyone has a talent and you have to cultivate it. You have to figure out how to cultivate it and use that talent to make your life whatever you want it to be. So that's not special. Everyone has a talent. They come in various different forms. So you just got to figure it out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another talent that you have is your passion
Ah.
and your heart, right? And so your ability to connect with people and your ability to make them feel like they're the most important person in the room at that given time. That even goes back to your acting, right?
Yeah.
That's where you can feel that.
Mhm.
And that's where you can connect with people. And that's something that I know runs in your family.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your passion bleeds over. And unfortunately, Peter just passed away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he wrote a book, right? That
Mhm.
goes back to kind of what you were sharing about the
Yeah.
hero.
Mhm.
Um,
And so Peter, my Canadian father, just passed away in August. Um, and it's been very, very, very hard and challenging because he was the patriarch of our family. He's the one that, got us speaking. He's the one that showed us it's to be a strong man, you need to be emotional. You need to lead with your heart. And it's been a big hole in our life right now. He wrote a book right before he passed, called Hero. Yeah, Hero. Hero in leadership, right? And Hero starts for heart, empowerment, respect, and opportunity. And he was the one that came up with our flagship speech acronym Hero. So then he wrote the book, and oh man, he passed right before I started doing the Thorn. And every night on the Thorn, every night when I'm on that stage, I talk to him and I cry out. And it's helped me. It's helped me like grieve. It's helped me still lead with my heart and not be enclosed. Yeah, so it's been very challenging by no means, but the book he has written has helped me, and so I myself am trying to bridge the gap where he left. He left a big hole, and I'm one of the things I told myself, like, I'm gonna live like Peter Running. I'm gonna do everything that Peter Running does because he has taught me how to be a man.
Mm.
And then the other hard part is you're on the road, right? You're away, and your mom's hurting. By the grace of God, your two brothers live there. I mean, Sterling just moved back there a couple of years ago and was able to spend some extra time with them and is able to support. So, if you could share your heart for your mom, what would that be?
Oh man, just I just got off tour, and so I will be going home, and I will be her rock, you know. And I always, every time I speak to her, I'll just say, "Mom, tell me how you feel." And she just kind of like, tells me exactly how she feels, and that's what's helping her out. So she can just, if she needs to cry, she needs to be upset, if she needs to like, just randomly talk about anything, I'm there for her so that she can grieve herself. She lost her heart and soul. It's I can't imagine what it's like, someone that you're so in love with just to be gone, and not and his death was something that we were not prepared for. He was going to have he had some heart complications, and he was going to have open heart surgery 16 days before his death. And the doctor said there's a 2% chance of any complications. So him passing away, we were not prepared for, and we're still trying to understand how it happened. And so we're in this moment in time, in this season, where we're really having to lean on God. And so for me, I have been trying to figure out different ways that I can be stronger in my faith. Getting more into the Word, trying to be more present with God every single day instead of just praying when I need it. Just being more present, so I can, like, when I do go home, I can be the rock that she needs, because she definitely needs somebody. So I know I can do it. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I've been doing my entire life. So she can always count on me and my brothers to be there for her. So that's just how it is.
And what does she mean to you?
I mean, she's my heart. She's the first person I told that I loved them when I was, and the first time I ever said I loved somebody when I was 13. She's my confidant. She's my best friend. She's the person that I go to for advice. She's the person that, when everything is going right, I talk to. When everything is going wrong, I talk to. She leads by her heart, and we just follow. She's a great example for anybody's family, especially ours.
Well, really appreciate you taking time to have this conversation. It was great to hear more of your story, and I'm super excited because we get to talk to you and one of your cast members about the Thorn, and
Yeah.
and get people excited about that. And
Yeah.
it's always fun to hear about what people are doing to lead and inspire and change people's lives, whatever the medium is. So I've had the chance to see their performance, and certainly haven't seen you as Maximus. So super excited to see that, and just see you at work. But it's been a blessing to spend this time with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, my
Two
brother.
more things. So Sterling's the reason why we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
from his
Yeah.
connection.
Big stir, man.
Yeah. So do you want to just, like, maybe he's watching right now, maybe we make a clip out of this or something, like just a
Yeah.
message to him of like how grateful you are of him for taking you in high
Yeah.
school.
Sterling, I tell you this all the time, my brother. I love you, and you know that, you have been everything for me in my life. I wouldn't be anywhere without you, and I love you, and I am so proud of the man you are and the godly man that you are, and how you lead by example. And I follow you and call you for advice, and you always keep it real with me, and I appreciate that. You've been the exact same way since you were 13, 20 some odd years later. We're exact same. So it's without you, I don't know where I would be. I love you, man.
And my last question for you, if you were on your deathbed and you had one more message to all your family, one last thing that you could say, what would you say?
I came home with dignity. That's one of the charges that my dad, before I went off to New York, he said, "Son, when you go into this world, always come home with dignity. And whether I've been in LA, New York, any place other in the world, I've always been right there with God, and I come home with dignity.
Amen.